am Captain Logan, and this is day 251 of Spawn Year. Man, it's sure nice to finally have something to do here to pass the time. Better not pass too much of it, though, or I'll miss reviewing today's issue. Wait a minute. Is this a combat training tool or another distraction? What am I saying? Of course it's a distraction. If I'm right, Tiny Adam West's whole scheme is just here to keep me off balance and divide my attention. Well, I might have to play his incessant game to survive, but that's the only reason I'm doing it. Well, that and this game is actually pretty fun. Okay, focus, Cap. Focus. On to the review. As Spawn and Twitch team up in search for Twitch's son, Max, the narrative continues to focus on characters who are incredibly dangerous because they've lost touch with themselves and humanity, and others who are planting their feet back on the ground, finding reason to live in the real world again, and discovering that doing the right thing, keeping a clear conscience, is the only way to keep that firm footing. This is bordering dangerously close to optimism for a Spawn comic, and finally Al Simmons actually seems a little heroic here. It all centers around personal responsibility. Both Spawn and Twitch find purpose in taking care of those situations which they had a hand in creating. Spawn is now openly vocal about his motivations. He wants to atone for past sins by making right what he made wrong. He's been on a supposed path to redemption before, but this one feels more sincere and believable, even if it did come out of a couple plot conveniences. Twitch has sobered up some now and been shocked into a new desire to live because of Spawn's agreeing to help him find Max, but he's trying to atone for something himself, still blaming himself for everything that's happened to Max. His divorce was the main factor in Max running away from home. I like that Spawn and Twitch are on converging but separate paths. Spawn truly does have a lot to make up for, while Twitch is unrealistically punishing himself for things outside his control. His only real crime was shooting Spawn repeatedly, and frankly that can be forgiven. He and Spawn use a mystical locator spell, courtesy of Nyx, and find Max drifting between life and the afterlife at a spooky old haunted mansion. The story is called 7.5 Ghost. Max is the half-ghost. Apparently, Dawn only partially vampirized him in the 7-part vampire cult arc, and that's why he's not quite alive or dead now. There's nothing in Max's recap about the exploding tower or what happened to Ab and Zab or anything, so I guess that has nothing to do with his in-between state, and I was totally off base. In my defense, a lot of events in that arc were unclear, and I found I needed this recap to explain it to me as much as somebody who hadn't read it would. It also makes Twitch blaming Spawn before even more head-scratching. Max has been claimed by the 7 ghosts of the house as a permanent resident. Once a ghost is accepted, the rule is that it can't leave. And so the ghosts don't want to let Max go when Spawn and Twitch get there. That's a cool way of explaining ghost stories where the same spirit stays in a building for decades, and also maybe why some souls can't cross over. Max befriends the deceptively innocent spirit of a lonely little girl, Sally, whose throat was slit by a serial killer in 1930. Having existed for decades as a wandering spirit, all Sally wants are more new friends to play with. She notices that Max has, incredibly conveniently, armed himself with a gun. I suppose he could have gotten it from the vampires, even though they were all more into brandishing swords than packing heat. But he says he found it. So I hope he's just simplifying things for the sake of conversation and he didn't actually just pick up a loaded gun somewhere. Figuring she's just a ghost and she can't harm herself, Max foolishly hands her the gun when she asks if she can take a look at it. Gee, what could possibly go wrong? It sounds to me like Twitch failed in a few other parental responsibilities, namely passing down some common sense. This is seriously Max's thought process. I know I should never hand a loaded gun to children, but this is the ghost of a child. So, how is that somehow less dangerous? And I love how this kid has learned nothing about being more discriminating about who he trusts after his vampire girlfriend turned him into a partial ghost. So Spawn and Twitch get there. One of the ghosts forbids them entry, but Spawn forces their way in, fights a ghost who's only susceptible to necroplasm attacks, and then, wouldn't you know it, the disturbing little girl asks Twitch to be her daddy and then shoots him so he'll be a ghost and stay with them. This is now officially the R-rated version of the Casper the Friendly Ghost movie. And yet again, Twitch gets shot. I think it's already happened more times to him than Lex Luthor in Smallville. Anybody else, that's a decent cliffhanger. Twitch, yawn. But maybe now that Max has seen his dad get shot, he'll quit trusting every strange girl he meets, no matter her age. Kids in Spawn are almost as stupid as a lot of the adults in Spawn. Well, how Sally gets a gun is cheap and ridiculous, but I like everything else about the situation. She's another person totally out of touch with reality, which continues to go hand in hand with a lack of regard for human life. This is one of the very few situations where a character shoots someone and still feels innocent to me. She's a ghost, so why not make someone else a ghost to keep her company? Incidentally, I don't know why ghosts can interact with solid objects in this universe. They seem completely corporeal. And regarding that notion of caring about preserving human life as a check to make sure you haven't lost your humanity, I like Twitch's line to Al early on when he says that Al being human again gives him hope. It's interesting that Al had to physically become human again to start rediscovering his humanity. I hope that pays off in some way later on. This is the most confident and assertive tonally a Spawn comic has felt in a while, appropriate as Spawn moves in that direction himself. Yet I remain skeptical. Experience has taught me never to get too comfortable when Spawn starts doing things I like. There's a difference between caution and cynicism. I, for example, would never hand a 70-year-old specter in the form of a 7-year-old girl a handgun. Signed, Captain Logan.